Welcome to Experimarketing, the podcast where we innovate, create, and appreciate. Powered by Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. Here's the host of Experimarketing, Chief Experimarketer, Colin Carasquillo.
Ladies and gentlemen, how's it going? This is Colin Carasquillo, Chief Experimarketer at Experimarketing, the podcast powered by Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. Big shout out to Jim McCarthy at Jim McCarthy Voiceovers for that incredible introduction. This is our first episode after the holiday, so I hope everyone had a lovely holiday, whether you did a virtual chat with people or had the immediate family over. I hope it was fantastic. I hope it was full of that little light that we could all use this time of year in the holiday season. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my marketing brother from another mother, Matt Wilson. Matt Wilson, how are you, my friends?
Colin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. How was your holiday, Matt?
It was good, right? Lots of, you can't travel. So it's a lot of time locked in the house with little children.
Yeah.
But it was great.
Well, I don't have kids yet, but I'm sure that was absolutely magical. I think there's one point you and I were talking back and forth when we were looking forward to this episode, and you said, I'm going to have to send them out of the house. They're going to their aunt's for an extended stay.
Yeah, I'll send them anywhere they want to go. Anybody who'll take them.
That's very funny, very funny. But I'm glad, you had a good holiday, and I'm glad we're back and we're able to record this episode of Experimarketing. We're going to unpack a lot of great things today. We're actually going to be talking about using reviews as part of your SEO strategy for 2021 and beyond, and building SEO and those reviews into your dealership advertising and marketing plan. What do you think?
I like it. Reviews and SEO. I like it.
I think there are two things ultimately that, for dealers, they really need to take a serious look at. Like I said, for 2021 and beyond, we know that reviews are exceptionally important when customers are looking for a dealership to do business with. And it transcends just that. I mean, reviews of products, in this example, let's say vehicles, looking at reviews of vehicles, looking at reviews of the dealerships, the service received at the dealership, and then ultimately what Google has done to build reviews as part of that, kind of key strategy that dealers need to look at for 2021 and beyond. I keep saying it, but 2021 is going to be a big year for auto dealers, and it's very exciting that we get to have this episode today. Now, before we get into our special guest, I do want to say that this episode of Experimarketing is brought to you by our friends over at Dealer Marketing Magazine. So dealermarketing.com. You can go there. They have a panel of experts that have been handpicked, and I'd like to say expertly curated to give you, thank you, to give you all of the knowledge that you could need on everything automotive. I mean, I'm talking from fixed ops to sales, parts and service as part of the fixed ops, marketing trends, different things that dealers can do for their advertising strategies. And then leading up to this, our other sponsor of the episode is Friendemic, and Friendemic enables dealers to essentially own the customer journey from start to finish, utilizing their marketing and advertising technology to build long-lasting relationships, generate new opportunities for sales, and help dealers close more leads. So I left off on Friendemic. Without further ado, I'd like to bring on Brent Albrecht, who is the VP of Business Development at Friendemic. There he is. Brent, how are you today?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Sure.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. I always have to say before we get into it, the Friendemic logo to me is one of the ones that always just sticks out. The little rabbit. I think that's really, it's cool. I just wanted to say that because that's for me. Every time I see the rabbit, I go, oh, that's Friendemic. I know Friendemic. Do you know that, is there like a story behind the rabbit?
That was developed before I was there. Now, and I think, the corporate office is in Salt Lake.
Uh-huh.
And there's definitely some skiers in the group when they started the company. And so that was, I think, one of those thoughts, but really is more around, think social media, right? Social media was sort of the big focus when Friendemic was started, and the idea of, posts go viral can kind of like breed like rabbits kind of thing. And I think that was sort of the, idea behind that.
So we go from snow bunnies to breeding like crazy.
Yes, exactly.
Hey, listen, we'll remember that. That's for sure. So, Brent, before we get down to business of talking about your article that was featured in Dealer Marketing Magazine, you are one of those experts on the panel, which is absolutely incredible that you're on there. We're very lucky to have you on the panel. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your background. What makes you you?
Sure. So I live in the Chicago suburbs. And, marketing has been a focus for, all my life. So almost 30 years, started back in the newspaper days, and, liked computers, made a pitch to the newspaper group that I was working with that there's this really cool thing called a website, right? And almost nobody has one, except some of these, handful of really big companies. We need a newspaper website. We can sell advertising on it. And, they were already sort of in the midst of working on it, but that pitch to them got me to lead up the first internet department for that group. And then I spent almost 10 years working in for the Sun-Times Group, which was a large group of newspapers at the time, building out their website programs and digital marketing for dealers, which was getting them websites that turned into e-commerce sites and a lot of digital marketing when it really started. And so that was back in mid 90s, and been doing digital marketing ever since. And then the last 10 years really focused on social media, reputation, all that encompasses in the auto space, with Friendemic for almost 6 years now, and another vendor prior to that.
Awesome. Well, you obviously have a lot of experience in the auto space, but not even just the auto space, but with technology and the internet. I mean, honestly, you'd be what I'd like to call a true Experimarketer. You headed up the development of the first internet division, which I think is crazy. And that's, what we love to highlight. And that's what we love to talk about on the show is those thought, I should say the thought leaders, the forward thinkers. So kudos to you. That's good. That's great. So with that stated, let's jump into this article. So this is on dealermarketing.com, which we had talked about at the beginning of the show there. This one is use reviews as key to your SEO strategy. So in this, you dissect a lot of great things that, actually start with a businesses or dealerships Google My Business. Okay. And as we all know, Google My Business, well, for maybe those that don't know, Google My Business, when you go on to Google and you search or you enter a query in, let's say dealership or Dodge dealership near me, most likely a Google My Business profile will pop up of your closest dealership. And on that, you're going to see the dealership's name, contact information, website, different parts, departments, whether it's parts, service, different products that they might have. Now, that's a very well optimized profile, and we could talk about that later in the episode. But the other thing you're going to notice is star rating. Now, that is what you dissect in this article, and you talk about a missed opportunity. Can you talk about, one, I guess, why dealers often have these review strategies in place? And then what is that missed opportunity? Let's dissect that a little bit more.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. It's interesting to think too, how, to watch how Google, keeps evolving, and you mentioned like you do that search for, Dodge dealer near me, and that Google My Business page is what you're going to see. I think originally that was almost like Yellow Pages, right? Like it was really a directory listing, right? Dodge dealer near me. Here's name, address, phone number of a bunch of Dodge dealers. And it's evolved to become so much more than that. I think Google has even referred to this as like a dealer's digital storefront, and I've heard people talk about like, this is almost like the new homepage of your website. So the Google My Business page has evolved a lot. And the opportunity is that, around reviews is that Google is using reviews as one of the primary factors in how they influence, when to show certain pages and how often to show them. And that's the new idea for dealers. As Google continues to evolve, I'm sure most dealers will tell you, like they all are starting to agree reviews are important. And if you ask them, all right, what's the biggest site, right? I think they'd all agree Google's the #1 site for reviews. So they get that part, But the part where the missed opportunity is that they're like, so what's the whole point of this? And they're like, well, this is a measure of my customer service, right? I need a better star rating than the other people. So if I'm a 4.7 and other dealers around me are a 4.1, 4.2, it says I have better customer service, right? And that's what they've seen the opportunity. Reviews measure how my customer service, the service I offer compares to competitors. Sometimes the OEMs are pushing us to get to a minimum rating or manage it, but they're all thinking about it as a customer service thing. And then from a marketing standpoint, it's not like taken into account at all. And that's where we're missing, because Google's not saying like absolutely people are looking at your reviews. It is a measure of customer service, but it's a measure. We use it as a measure of when to show your Google My Business page. So now that means all your efforts in SEO are going to be impacted by those reviews. And then, correspondingly, we'll see when you start running pay-per-click ads on Google, the same issue comes up, right? Your reviews are going to impact how many clicks you get and the cost you pay for those clicks. So that's once you get into, pay-per-click on Google and Google SEO, those are pretty significant areas of your marketing. And so that's how I think, like, now we have to look at how do we integrate, reviews into that strategy.
Right. So how did the two go together? Because I think, like you had mentioned, dealers would look at that, right? It's almost like this. You would say, okay, social media and reputation management, right? They would silo it. It would be in its own little bucket. Or it might even be social media and then reputation management. So now you have two separate buckets. Then they would say SEO, right? And then it would be pay-per-click and all these other things, maybe digital display and retargeting and so on and so forth. So they're siloed, when in reality, you need to look at it from the omni-channel approach, right? It's this holistic approach, and saying, how does one of these affect or impact the other ones? And really, instead of looking at it as a silo, it should be looked at together. And so I think that's one of the things you had mentioned too, with, these OEM standards and compliance. That's absolutely true. I mean, we have 9 stores in our dealership group, and, 3 of them are FCA stores. And I could tell you, in order to get your customer first for excellence award, you need to have a certain, review scoring. There needs to be a process in place, with JD Power and so on and so forth. So I could see how that could be the driving factor for a lot of dealers. But, I think you would agree, Brent, and I'm going to say it now. It might be a bold claim. I think dealers need to, focus on that because it's what the OEM is looking for, right? Sure. But stop looking at it just from that single lens. Look at it from the other lens of, this is actually impacting, and in some instances, quite significantly, everything else that you do to generate traffic to your website and ultimately your brick and mortar showroom. I mean, would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I would estimate that, the vast majority of dealers out there, if you ask them, what was the change in your reputation or your Google reviews, even, let's just focus on Google, right? What was the change in, Google reviews in 2020? What was the change in, how'd your SEO do in 2020? And did you see any relationship? And none of them are even looking. They're probably looking at, I'm looking at my review scores over here, and that's a separate report.
Right.
And I know how my SEO did, and I'm not like marrying the two at all. And they absolutely need to.
Right. So marry the two together. I think that that's going to be key, because it gives you a lot of insight, into one. Like you said, you're spending a lot of money. Most likely dealers are spending a lot of money on SEO, and they're spending a lot of money on someone managing their reputation. Now, the thing is, let's say you're spending $1,000 on each, all semantics and hypothetical numbers, but this will allow you to know what is working when you do marry them together. If you say, hey, my SEO rankings did not improve the whole time, and my reviews went down in terms of my engagement, my poor scores, so on and so forth. Well, reevaluate those expenditures. See if there's some way that you can change what you're doing, find the opportunity for improvement. So I love the fact, like I said, that you really, delved into this on this article here. So the next item I want to talk about, now that we're on Google My Business, is the fact, and you stated in here, and I could not agree with you more, Google My Business is some of the best quality traffic that dealers will ever get to their website, and ultimately translating to their brick and mortar showroom, what I like to call from click to brick. So tell us about why, you're stating that Google My Business is some of the best quality traffic you'll ever get.
Yeah, I think, again, you have to look at sort of, consumer intent and what's happening on different sites that you're going to advertise on or invest in. Back to your example of, searching for a Dodge dealer near me. How many people search for a Dodge dealer near me just for fun, right? I'm just curious, right? I want to see who's out there. I wonder how many oil change, places are in my market. I've never looked. Let me just do a search for fun. And nobody believes that's happening. So we have to say, like, what is it you think, consumers are doing on their path to purchase there? And if I'm searching for a Dodge dealer near me, it's because I need to buy a Dodge, right? I'm sold on the brand. I'm looking for a new one. And if I search for oil change, if I search for brake service, it's because I need that service. And especially, I think, on the fixed op side of things, this is like, bottom of the funnel stuff. And that's, we always hear when I'm talking to dealers about, Facebook ads, marketing, a lot of it's, how many leads am I get? How much more am I going to be able to sell this month? I want bottom of the funnel people. And you're like, well, if that's what you want, then Google search, like, that's what this is giving you. People that are searching for oil change, brakes, that kind of thing, is not, I need an oil change someday. I need an oil change right now. I'm looking to schedule. Like, you can't get more bottom of funnel than that. Right. And that's the value of these people. And then, with the focus on Google My Business, now they have, call, appointment setting links, driving directions. It's, I think dealers need to look at their Google Analytics web, stats and see. My guess is people that click from Google My Business, are either deep linking in or ready to take action, as opposed to, I'm not going to click the call button and, driving directions if I'm not, ready to go. Right. And that's, again, like, this is low funnel traffic, right? But it's also highly converting because we got those actions right there ready for people to take.
Absolutely. So, you had brought up a couple key things that Google enables dealers to do, which one is get calls right from the Google My Business listing. Actually, you can chat. In some instances, hook up your messenger and texting, right? So we're talking about conversational commerce. People have inquiries and they want them answered in real time. They can message you directly, depending on whoever your chat provider is for dealers. It integrates. Sometimes they integrate with Google My Business messaging, which is incredible. The directions, as you had mentioned, they have FAQs on there that dealers can absolutely take advantage of for SEO purposes. But the biggest thing, and I want to say, that was kind of a question that, I knew that obviously you stated that for a reason in terms of Google My Business traffic being great quality traffic. So I was not the one that said, hey, go out and do this. But in terms of Brian Pash, I'm sure you're familiar with Brian Pash, right? So Brian Pash, I believe it was probably the better half of last year or 2 years ago, for that matter, talked about optimizing your Google My Business listings. And one of the things he said was using urgent tracking mechanisms, or UTM codes. For us in the automotive space, we love little, look, we have our abbreviation acronyms. Thank you. As I was looking, I was going to say anecdotes. That wasn't it. It just kept checking off the.
I saw you searching. You were searching.
Thank you. And so that's my own personal Google right there, Matt Wilson. So yes, little acronyms. Thank you, Matt. And with the acronym, the UTM code, what we're seeing in our Google Analytics, because we do have Google Analytics on our websites, is that the Google My Business source is actually, if not the number one, usually number two or in that top three of traffic generating sources. And so, we have that so that the organic or the source ends up being Google, the campaign ends up being Google My Business, the medium ends up being organic. So it's not pooling it differently. It's still falling under organic traffic, but we're actually able to see that, oh my goodness, you're absolutely right, that Google My Business traffic is often the top three traffic, or in the top three of traffic generating sources, and the quality of the traffic is just unmatched. Quite frankly, it truly is. So that's why I wanted to touch on that, because I don't think dealers, like you said, put enough stock or enough emphasis on actually optimizing their Google My Business pages or basically profiles, and then realizing what that means for their website in the long run. So the Google My Business, we had talked about it briefly, just in passing or in mentioning, if you will, but talk about setting up a complete parts or service or sales and service listing, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's been like frustration questions from some dealers on this, because there was a time where dealers had separate listings
Mhm.
and Google would automatically merge them together. And so they're like, wait a minute, like we're supposed to make separate listings because a couple years ago they were getting merged together, and now they're getting split apart. And the answer is like, yeah, you can see that the process has changed. But I mean, if you think about it, the service department is a different customer, different business in how it functions than the sales side.
Mhm.
And so lumping them all together is not, doing a service to the dealer, right? It's to your disadvantage, especially on the fixed ops side. I challenge a dealer, go to your market, do a search for auto repair or oil change or brakes or any of those. And most of the time you will see very few franchise dealers. And if you think about it, it's the Jiffy Lubes, Pet Boys, Midases of the world. They all have Google My Business pages that are 100% dedicated to service. They've got service hours, service phone, all their service products, service specials, service appointments. And if you look at a dealer's main sales page, they might throw in auto repair as a category, but everything's really focused around selling cars. And so if you want to compete in this world of all these people doing these auto repair type local searches, then you need a page that's dedicated to service, just like all your competition. So just from that standpoint alone, I think would justify, having a separate service page. But again, now I can specialize. I can only have so many, products, offers, posts. But if I have a service page, it'll be all service content. There's everything about, all the different, tune-ups and repair things that you should have in different offers and posts. And those hours are all built around that customer experience, which is very different from the sales side. And then, again, you mentioned parts. I think parts as well, if it's a big part of your business, warrants it's a page of its own.
Right. Do you think that that's where the true opportunity is, though, on the fixed side of things? Now, I'm not downplaying the importance of sales. That's very important. But what we talk about on Experimarketing, on previous episodes, we've talked about it, is about finding the white space. And by white space, what we mean is the areas that dealers are not actively playing in or involved in yet. And I think that's going to change in 2021. But do you think service, for that matter, you guys can see right out my window here, that's a Mavis right next door to us, which is crazy. So the fact of the matter is, do you think that's where the true opportunity is for dealers? And then what I'll equate that to is just this figure 8 or the infinity loop, where sales feeds service, service feeds sales, so on and so forth. Is that what you would think, Brent?
Oh, for sure. I mean, service is, a major part of the revenue at a dealership, right? We all know that. But the opportunity is there, because I think so much of that money goes out the door to other, right, to the repair franchises or all the independent shops. And it's just, I don't know there's been enough focus from a dealer to how do we go and retain it. We've seen that, there's at least a couple that come to mind, digital agents, marketing agencies for dealers that just focus on fixed stops. And it tells you that, it deserves its own focus, not just its own Google My Business page, but it deserves its own ad budget and its own pay-per-click campaigns and those kind of things that they don't always get.
So bringing up ad budgets and pay-per-click campaigns, I think that's a perfect segue and transition. So let's say the dealer has their sales page on Google My Business set up. Sales is great. They have a service listing. It's great. And then even the dealers that decide to jump into this head first, they make a parts department listing. Okay, so they're optimized. Now, knowing that they're optimized and they have relevance, there's one other thing that Google's looking at, and you talk about it in this article, and it's about prominence. So prominence of reviews, talk about prominence, and then we're going to go into how that relevance and prominence helps your AdWords strategy.
Yep. No. So prominence to Google is, because the other thing besides relevance and prominence is distance, right? So we want to show businesses close to a consumer. That's sort of obvious, but distance doesn't get talked about much because it's really out of your control. When people search, but the reality is, Google doesn't want to just show the closest businesses. They want to show the best businesses, right? I'm trying to give you the best search results. I want to show you the best businesses to go to. And how do I decide what businesses are the best? And they've decided consumer reviews are the way that we'll measure those. And that's your measure of prominence. And it's not just the number of reviews, but they use a lot of different factors. So they're using the number of reviews, your average rating, the recency of reviews, which means you have to keep getting reviews in. You can't just, sit back when you get to, a point you're at. How many people like those reviews, the keywords in the reviews, and even review responses. And I know there's still dealers out there that don't believe they need to respond to every review. But Google's saying like, well, again, you don't have to for your own business, but we're going to use it as a measure of your prominence. And so you're penalized in a sense in SEO if you don't.
Well, I think, even looking at it from an engagement perspective, I mean, honestly, as a consumer myself, right? And I know I sit on the dealer side of things, but as a marketer, you also need to think, well, how would this work for a consumer that's, looking for a vehicle? And so if I put myself in that position or in the consumer's shoes and I Google, we'll use this Dodge dealer near me example, and let's say one of our dealerships, Nielsen Dodge, pops up. And from there, I'm seeing that, all right, Nielsen Dodge has a 4.5 rating, and there are obviously some positive reviews, but there's negative reviews. And on those negative reviews, there's been no outreach or response from the dealer. Or even on the positive reviews, if someone's saying, oh my God, screaming from the rooftops that this was the best experience they've ever had, and the dealer doesn't even say, thank you, you're kind of like, I'm going to second guess doing business with this dealership just because where's the engagement? Where's the human, emotion from that? So I could absolutely see why, Google is making that part of what they would do. And like you said, in terms of just showing the business, because they want to show the best business. I mean, Google's about being it's helping the individual. And I forget exactly what they changed their business model from, but I think it was last year. They changed the method from being like giving you just information, but actually guiding you to the best end result. So, and I don't want to butcher that. It wasn't me. That was Sundar Pichai that ended up saying it, but it went from like an information site to like a suggestion, and here's how you do this kind of site. So I could see why that absolutely ties together. So now with that stated, we talked about all the optimizations of Google My Business. We talked about relevance and prominence. Now let's talk about the AdWords. So dealers often want to say, okay, so I'm set up there. I have a good foundation. Let's build upon the foundation. Now the next logical thing would be, let's use, Google search. Let's do some CPC or PPC, some pay-per-click. So with pay-per-click in mind, and dealers doing different campaigns, whether it's for sales or service for that matter, right? We see there's a big opportunity for service terms. I mean, you could do brand specific, right? Jeep oil change, Jeep tire rotation. With that stated, and you talked about it, but just to reiterate, how does the review strategy and SEO impact essentially your ROI that you could get on search?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, and I think, Google has said we'll use reviews and prominence and relevance to decide how you show up. There's still dealers out there. They're hiring agencies to do SEO for them. Mm-hmm. And I always feel bad for the agency because they're saying like, I want to come up more frequently in search, but that agency has nothing to do with reputation management or generating reviews for them.
Right.
And so at some point, if they're like, well, please help me with my SEO. Now, I might be a 3.9 on Google and I don't get a lot of reviews and I'm not bothering to respond to them, but I'm going to hold you accountable to make me show up more frequently. And right. Google says all these things matter, but I'm not going to do them. Like for an agency, you're almost like tying their hands and you're wasting your money, right? That's a hard thing to get into. So, Google has stated that all these factors will impact when you show up on search. And then when it comes to ads, because again, they're showing your review rating, your review score right below your listing almost everywhere they possibly can. You run ads. We've seen multiple studies out there. They'll say the better your star rating, the more likely you are to get a click on your ad. So one, just by having a 5-star over a 3-star, the study we quoted in the article showed you almost get 28% more clicks. Mm-hmm. So, but it's not just like, great, I get more clicks with a better reputation. It's what that implies. And,
right.
and Google and Facebook both do this with their advertising, which is, quality scores, and they have algorithms in place. Again, just like they want to show the best businesses and search results, they want to display better businesses in their ads, which means the more clicks you get and the higher your click-through rate, let's assume then you must be a more desirable business. So I will show you more often and reward you with a lower cost per click than someone else who gets a worse click-through rate. So it's not just that these people now are getting more clicks because they have better reviews, they're also rewarded with a lower cost per click rate. You know what I mean? So now I don't have to spend as much to get 100 clicks as what you might, simply because I have a 4.5 on Google and you have a 3.5.
Right.
And so it's not just like, well, yeah, customers see these and they like better reviews. Like, no, there's a dollars and cents value here that gets tied to this.
Right. So it can positively impact the bottom line. And I think now more than ever, it's very important for dealers. I mean, let's talk about it. And unfortunately, it was the theme of the year 2020, but COVID-19 threw a monkey wrench into everything. And essentially what dealers did at the beginning of the pandemic, or I should say when they were forced to close down, I know our dealership did it, is we turned the faucet off on all advertising expenditures. We said, nope. Turn everything off. We don't know what's going to happen. Turn the money off. And, there was 3 different approaches to it, right? There was dealers that turned everything off. There was dealers that said, let's keep everything status quo. And then there was dealers who, my goodness, the cojones on those dealers said, let's spend more money and let's advertise more because everyone else has turned their expenditures off. Now, that mentality of the dealers that decided to throttle back their advertising, is still lasting. And essentially what they're saying is, how do I get more for less? And we are running leaner, we're running meaner, and I think that's the theme that we've seen across a majority of dealerships for that matter. So this is very important though, Brent, because what you're saying is if dealers just took the time to make sure that their Google My Business listings and their review scores were good and they're responding to reviews and that they had both relevance and prominence, they could probably get the same results of what they would have gotten pre-COVID-19 expenditures on SEM with a lower, more efficient expenditure just from optimizing the Google My Business listings now, right? I mean, is that essentially?
No, you're absolutely right. And if you think about it, I would say a lot of dealers are spending 10 grand plus a month between PPC and SEO. And of all the different reputation vendors out there, right, and we're just one of them, I mean, the average cost per reputation program to get new reviews and get them responded to might be like $500 a month. So how do you say, like, I'm trying to save this $500, like I don't invest $500 in reviews, even though it's going to have such a big impact on my $10,000 a month, ad budget. And that's where you're like, it's like just a little cost of insurance or whatever it is, to invest to make sure that you're doing everything to optimize for Google to maximize, all the clicks you can possibly get through organic search results and through your paid search.
Right. So there's one thing I think that's very important in here. You did talk about the example of a 4.5 dealer, obviously getting more clicks, a higher click-through rate versus a 3.5 dealer. But you talk about the 3.5 star threshold. Now, I would agree with you. I think there are some things, and let's just be honest, there are profiles of our dealers that are probably set up that we haven't looked at in forever, or one we didn't even realize. So here's one, and I'm sure Friendemic is already looking at this. And if not, then I challenge you guys to say, dealers, how do we fix this? So the biggest thing, I'll tell you what, now I know a lot of people are involved on Google. I'm going to hold up my phone on this. And essentially though, if I go to Maps on here, on your Apple phone,
yep.
And I don't think many dealers know this. So dealers, listen up, because this is for you, because I learned the hard way. And I type in my dealership name, let's say Nielsen Dodge. What I don't think dealers realize, they think Google runs everything, which it almost does. But on here, your Apple Maps, which I think a majority of people still use Apple Maps. They just use the standard device. It's just like on a browser. Whatever your standard browser is, they'll use it, right? That's why you still see Bing searches. It's crazy. But on this dealership, Nielsen Dodge, which it hurts me to say, and I'll say it, on Yelp, that's what powers Apple Maps, Yelp reviews. I am a 2.5 star dealer. You go to Google, I'm a 4.8 star dealer. So the fact of the matter is, I think for people, don't miss this opportunity either. There is tons of other review places out there that we need to make sure are optimized. Now, I know this is a little tangent from Google My Business and what you wrote about, but it's still super, super important in terms of just review and SEO. If people are looking you up, right, they're searching my dealership out, they know my dealership name, they're most likely coming, they want to convert down the funnel here. But if that's the review that you see, shame on us. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's just very, very important, and to make sure everything's optimized, right? So that would be Bing Places or Yelp that you have to utilize. So make sure all your accounts are set up, guys. So ultimately, we dissected a lot of things here. We do see the positive results that positive reviews and a good review score can have for a dealership. But let's do a couple takeaways and chime in if I miss anything. But takeaways for me on this one: one, dealers, make sure that your dealership has a Google My Business that is set up, that is claimed. There might be one out there that you don't even know exists out there. You need to make sure and verify that you own all of your Google My Business accounts. A good way to do that, and I wish I could show it on the screen for you guys, is if you go to Google Maps and you type in your dealership name, and then it'll pull it up on the map. If you zoom all the way in, zoom in, what it will do is it's going to pull up if there are any additional place markers on that same business address. Make sure that you either own it or you mark it to be removed or request ownership, because what you're having there is going to be two conflicting things. One might be for, your LLC. The other one might be for your DBA, so doing business as name. The LLC might have a 1-star review because someone all of a sudden just said, I'm going to leave a review on this, but your DBA has a 5-star review. You need to make sure that you have ownership. You own all of your Google My Business profiles. Once that's stated, you want to make sure that they're all optimized. Now, Brent, as you've stated before, optimization means a complete sales and service and even potentially parts listings. Now, there are ways you go on Google, you can do that. They'll tell you how to verify it. You can get a phone call, you can get a postcard mailed to you, a couple different ways. But then ultimately, the reviews themselves. Reviews are exceptionally, exceptionally important, but not as just the, hey, my customer service is good, but showing, one, people that, okay, you do care. So that is the customer service metric, but the bottom line that it can help you with, which is your SEO rankings, it's your relevance, it's your prominence, it's impacting your PPC campaigns as you move forward, making sure that everything is optimized, right? So you get a lower cost per click, you get higher engagement rates, so on and so forth. And then ultimately, is there anything I missed, Brent? I took a lot of notes during this. I wanted to make sure I caught everything.
It's a big topic. So the one other last thing I'd throw in, Colin, and you've mentioned a few times, right? Make sure your Google My Business pages are optimized. But the issue there, I think, is not every dealer is clear on what optimization means.
Very good point.
So what we've seen is so now there's been a big push. A lot of dealers are getting these pages created, and they put in their name, address, phone number, link to the website. So there you go. Page is done, optimized.
Right.
And really, it's not. There's a lot you can do on a Google My Business page, but so prominence is about reviews. Relevance is a complete business listing. The more complete it is, the more Google understands your business, so they can show you in searches. But that means, again, filling out products. And I would, on the new car side, I'd fill out a product for every model you have, right? Maybe you do some categories like pre-owned under 10,000, things like that. Make a bunch of product categories. On fixed ops, you could have a product for oil change, brake service, tune-ups, wheel alignments, on and on. All that is really rich SEO content. We saw one store, they had it was a Subaru listing. They had a service page created that just had name, address, phone number. And in August, September, they got 8 interactions, which is either a click to call, click to arriving directions. And then we took it over, we built it out, products for that page, and we started doing posting of offers and updates. And in October, November, then they got 136 interactions
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to 8. So almost 15 times more interactions. Both times you could say, well, it was a complete listing of sorts, but it wasn't until it was truly optimized that Google started showing it in a lot more searches, and then you get more conversions. So fill out everything you can on your Google My Business page.
Listen, I think that that's a really great point. You know, I will say I originally was a naysayer when it came down to posts. I love the products, but when it came down to posts, I said, do you see where those things actually show up on your Google My Business listing, especially if you're on a mobile device? We know the majority of our customers at this day and age are mobile, right? So they're on the device. I said, do you see where your posts show up? They show up all the way down the page. I have to scroll this far, but that's when I was a naysayer. I will tell you that we started doing more posting. We entered products, all that stuff that you just talked about for your Subaru example. And sure enough, when you use, the UTM codes and see it on Google Analytics, well, seeing is believing. And there were people that were engaging. And then you also got engagement reports from Google My Business, right? It's in their same insights reporting where they'll show you, okay, here's how many engagements your post got. And sure enough, the number goes up when you actively do it and you're putting regular content out there. So the relevance and prominence. I mean, Brent, I think we unpacked a lot of great things for people to reach out to you. I mean, as an expert and Friendemic, I think we can add it on the screen. Can we add it on the screen in real time? Can you give us your phone number? Or
Sure. Yeah. Email is really easy. It's brent@friendemic.com. And the phone number is 630-508-3740. But I'm always happy to chat about Google My Business or other marketing topics. That's why I write for Dealer Marketing Magazine. I spent 7 years teaching marketing at one of the universities here in the suburbs. I love to teach, share knowledge, and happy to have those conversations with people.
That's awesome. And I think that's the most important thing is when you know something's right, or when you have, these great thoughts and you want to share them and teach people. That is the beauty of marketing. That is the beauty of what we do at Experimarketing. So Brent, thank you so very much for being on that dealer marketing panel. I think your wealth is absolutely an asset to dealermarketing.com, to Friendemic. For all of those out there that are listening, like we said, it's Brent at Friendemic. That's BRENT at Friendemic, is FRIENDEMIC.com. His phone number, 630-508-3740. And he's always ready to teach and teach you everything there is about Google My Business and social media. So Brent, thank you very much. Thanks for being on today. We wish you a healthy, happy, and prosperous 2021.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks, Matt. You guys have a great holiday too, and appreciate you inviting me onto the show.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. So, wow. I mean, I've always loved Google My Business. I think Google gives us so many things that are just free that we can take advantage of and truly leverage as the dealer community to get us the best results possible. How about your knowledge on Google My Business now? Are we ready? Can we go do like trivia together or something?
You dealers love free.
That's right.
No, you know what I was thinking as he was talking, and I was interested in your opinion on this, is you're right? There's so many agencies out there like, oh, we're a reputation management agency. Right. We do reputation management.
That's it.
We're specialists at that, right? There's those agencies. Then there's we are your SEO specialists. And then there's we handle your PPC specialists. And you were talking about silos. Mm-hmm. And those things, you don't really always realize that those things go together, right? I always talk about how you should use the same agency for SEO and PPC because those two things go together. But it really seems like your reputation management works in Congress with your SEO, that those things should almost go together. And then it becomes like, do you work with somebody who specializes in one of those things or who can do all of those things? Like there's a lot of different ways to look at it. Do you want to work with somebody who's, a company that's a jack of all trades, but maybe they're not experts at all of them? Masters of none, yeah. It just becomes an interesting discussion about what can be siloed and what should all be handled by either one tactic or one company or one person, however a store or a group does it. Just an interesting discussion because I don't think there's a right answer. I think there's a bunch of different ways, and it depends on a lot of things too, right? It might depend on your manufacturer. Your OEM might give you money back to use this one person for this one tactic.
Certified vendors, yep.
And for your business, maybe it makes sense. There's probably no right answer, but that would be a good discussion that we could probably have, you and I, and someone else, about how do you make that decision? Because there's a million different ways to do it.
I think that's, a really great conversation to have. I would agree with you that I don't think there's any one right answer, but I do think that dealers now being, more educated than ever before, right? Yeah. There's so many ways to get more information about what your advertising expenditures are actually doing for you, right? Reporting, ROI, all these different things. And dealers have become more astute to asking for that. So that's great. Good on you, dealers. But the fact of the matter is, I think the more everything can work together and is under one roof, the better it is for not only that ad agency, right? They have more control over kind of the holistic approach. Like I had mentioned before, it's that omni-channel approach. They know that, okay, this digital display and retargeting ad, then entered into this search and so on and so forth. They could see the whole customer journey versus having it siloed, utilizing different vendor partners. But then also on the flip side of the coin for the dealer, as we like to say, it's one throat to choke. So with that, I don't know. It is a really great conversation to have. There's many ways to skin that cat. I think that's something else that they say. So with that, Matt, thank you so very much. Yeah, stay in touch with us, guys. Please like and follow both of our pages on Facebook. It's Experimarketing. You'll see my ugly mug on there. And then Mostly Automotive Marketing with Matt Wilson. When's your next episode? By the way, Matt, yet?
I think I've got one coming out next week. I got a couple coming up. Okay. I got a Dealer Marketing Magazine episode coming up that I'm recording tomorrow, which will be out next week. And I've got an episode. I got a couple episodes coming up.
Good.
Maybe two next week.
Okay. So there you go, guys. The bi-weekly-ish podcast is
more than bi-weekly.
It's more than bi-weekly. We're going to have to change your name. It's giving you more content, and more content is what we want to give to you guys in 2021. Go once again, before I end here, subscribe on YouTube, Experimarketing, Mostly Automotive Marketing, with Matt Wilson on YouTube, and then also connect with us on LinkedIn. Just search our names. We'll be there. We want to have conversations. We want new connections. We want to keep the dialogue going. And with that, we wish you a happy new year. Let's hope 2021 is better than the mess that 2020 has been. We'll see you next time on Experimarketing. Thank you, everyone.